Groyper Warriors! I'm your host, Mitsuri, and today we're diving into the epic rivalry between Nick Fuentes and Ben Shapiro, comparing it to Classroom of the Elite's intense showdown between Ayanokoji and Ryuen. Just like Ayanokoji, Nick stays calm, strategic, and always outsmarts his opponents, while Shapiro, like Ryuen, is all talk, overconfident, and ultimately gets outplayed. Buckle up as we break down how Nick consistently wins while Ben's schemes fall apart. Number 10. Nick always wins, like Ayanokoji outsmarting Ryuen. Nick Fuentes has consistently proven himself as a master debater, with arguments on his show that easily outshine those of Ben Shapiro. This rivalry is much like Ayanokoji's battle of wits with Ryuen in Classroom of the Elite. While Ryuen overestimates his intelligence, Ayanokoji stays calm and calculated, always outplaying his opponent. Similarly, Nick's arguments are far more effective, showcasing his sharp intellect compared to Shapiro's repetitive talking points. Both Nick and Ayanokoji understand the importance of strategy. No matter how confident Ryuen or Shapiro may seem, their overconfidence ultimately leads to their downfall. Nick's ability to dissect issues with precision is what makes him a force to be reckoned with, just as Ayanokoji's secret genius allows him to always stay ahead of Ryuen's plans. Number 9. Shapiro runs from debates like Ryuen avoids Ayanokoji. One of the most telling aspects of the Nick vs. Ben rivalry is Shapiro's refusal to debate Nick. Much like Ryuen in Classroom of the Elite, who avoids confronting Ayanokoji when he senses his superiority, Shapiro has never dared to face Nick directly. This avoidance speaks volumes about Shapiro's fear of being outsmarted. Ben knows that a debate with Nick would expose his weaknesses. Ayanokoji's calm, calculated nature always unsettles Ryuen, making him hesitant to face him head-on. Similarly, Nick's intellectual strength is too much for Shapiro to handle, leading to his continuous avoidance of a direct debate. The fear of being outmatched looms over both Ryuen and Shapiro, proving that Nick, like Ayanokoji, holds the upper hand. Number 8. Nick is smarter, like Ayanokoji, outsmarting everyone. Nick Fuentes, much like Ayanokoji, has an intellectual edge over his opponents, especially Ben Shapiro. While Shapiro presents himself as the ultimate conservative intellectual, Nick's nuanced takes and deep understanding of political issues constantly outshine Ben's surface-level arguments. In Classroom of the Elite, Ayanokoji is the secret mastermind, always outwitting those around him, and Nick operates similarly in the political world. Ayanokoji keeps his intelligence hidden, only revealing it when necessary to outplay his rivals. Nick, in the same way, keeps a strategic approach, never letting arrogance get in the way of delivering sharp commentary. Whether it's dissecting complex policies or explaining societal issues, Nick's brilliance shines through, leaving Shapiro's rehearsed arguments looking amateurish in comparison. Number 7. Nick is funnier, like Ayanokoji's calm wit. Nick Fuentes brings humor into his commentary, making him not just a serious intellectual, but also someone who can entertain while delivering hard truths. This is similar to Ayanokoji's calm and witty demeanor in Classroom of the Elite. While Ryuen tries to dominate with brute force, Ayanokoji's subtle humor and calculated remarks break down his opponent's bravado. Nick's sharp wit does the same to Shapiro, whose stiff and serious tone pales in comparison. Shapiro's overly formal and serious attitude lacks the charisma that Nick effortlessly displays. Just as Ayanokoji remains composed and witty in the face of conflict, Nick's humor keeps his audience engaged and on his side. The ability to make people laugh while also teaching them is something Nick excels at, leaving Shapiro's attempts at humor feeling forced and dry. Number 6. Shapiro's nerdy vibe, like Ryuen's unfitting swagger. Let's face it, Ben Shapiro is kind of nerdy. His fast-talking and overly formal style may have a fan base, but it comes across as forced, much like Ryuen's attempt to appear intimidating in Classroom of the Elite. Ryuen tries to present himself as a tough leader, but he lacks the real substance and cool demeanor of Ayanokoji. Similarly, Shapiro's attempts to dominate the conservative space fall flat next to Nick's effortless cool. Nick Fuentes is the complete opposite. Just as Ayana Koji never has to try hard to prove his superiority, Nick's presence speaks for itself. Shapiro's nerdy vibe makes him seem out of touch, while Nick comes off as confident, composed, and ready to lead. In the end, it's Ayana Koji and Nick who win because they don't need to overcompensate for anything. Number 5. NiChad Vibes like Ayana Koji's quiet dominance. Nick Fuentes embodies everything a modern Chad should be. Confident, composed, and in control. In Classroom of the Elite, Ayana Koji is similarly dominant, never losing his cool or showing weakness, while his opponents crumble under pressure. Ben Shapiro, much like Ryuin, lacks the charisma and presence that makes Nick such a compelling figure. Shapiro might try to appear strong, but his approach lacks the raw, confident energy that Nick exudes effortlessly. Just as Ayana Koji doesn't flaunt his dominance but lets his actions speak for him, Nick doesn't have to try too hard to assert his presence. His confidence naturally draws people to him, making him the clear leader in the America First movement. Meanwhile, Shapiro struggles to match this level of command, often coming across as insecure in comparison. Number 4. Nick has an army, like Ayana Koji's secret influence. Nick Fuentes has built a dedicated army of followers in the Groypers, much like Ayana Koji's quiet influence over his classmates in Classroom of the Elite. While Ryuin tries to bully and force people to follow him, Ayana Koji subtly gains the loyalty of those around him, just like Nick has with his Groyper movement. Shapiro, on the other hand, doesn't have this kind of organic, loyal following. Ayana Koji's strength comes from the influence he builds over time, and Nick's army of Groypers is much the same. Nick's followers are dedicated because they believe in the America First message, while Shapiro's audience often feels more like passive consumers of content. In the end, it's clear that Nick, like Ayana Koji, holds true power through the people who stand by him. Number 3. Shapiro defends Israel, like Ryuin's misplaced loyalty. Ben Shapiro's unwavering defense of Israel, despite the state's violent actions towards its Palestinian neighbors, mirrors Ryuin's misplaced loyalty to his power-hungry methods in Classroom of the Elite. Just as Ryuin refuses to see the harm his tactics cause, Shapiro turns a blind eye to the injustice done to Palestinians. Nick Fuentes, on the other hand, isn't afraid to call out the truth, no matter how unpopular it may be. Ayana Koji, much like Nick, knows when to challenge the status quo, never blindly following a flawed system. Shapiro's defense of Israel reflects his unwillingness to see the bigger picture, while Nick stands firm in his convictions, even when it means going against powerful interests. Just as Ayana Koji ultimately exposes Ryuin's weaknesses, Nick exposes the flaws in Shapiro's arguments. Number 2. Nick champions free speech like Ayana Koji, exposing the truth. Nick Fuentes has always been a staunch defender of free speech, a core value that sets him apart from figures like Shapiro, who often support censorship when it suits his narrative. In Classroom of the Elite, Ayana Koji's brilliance comes from his ability to expose the truth, just as Nick constantly champions the right for all voices to be heard, regardless of how controversial they may be. Ryuin, like Shapiro, tries to control the narrative by silencing those who challenge him. But just as Ayana Koji's brilliance breaks through Ryuin's schemes, Nick's unwavering support for free speech will continue to outshine Shapiro's inconsistent stance. Nick's commitment to allowing all viewpoints to be heard is what makes him the real champion of intellectual discourse. Number 1. Shapiro stays platformed. While Nick fights deplatforming, like Ryuin versus Ayana Koji, the biggest advantage Ben Shapiro has is that he remains safe from deplatforming, unlike Nick Fuentes, who has been consistently targeted for censorship. Shapiro's continued presence on mainstream platforms mirrors Ryuin's attempts to stay in control by any means necessary. Ayana Koji, much like Nick, operates in the shadows, using strategy and intelligence to overcome these obstacles, even when the odds are stacked against him. Despite the hardships, Nick continues to win. Like Ayana Koji in Classroom of the Elite, Nick outplays the system, proving that even when deplatformed, his influence remains strong. Shapiro's reliance on mainstream platforms highlights his vulnerability, while Nick's resilience in the face of censorship proves that true power comes from unwavering dedication to the cause. And there you have it! Nick Fuentes is the Ayanokoji of politics, always outsmarting Shapiro's Ryuan-like overconfidence. As we continue through Groyper War 2, remember that just like Ayanokoji, Nick's strategy and intellect will always win the day. Shapiro might talk fast, but we know Nick is the real deal. Stay sharp, Groypers. Victory is on our side.